please start the topic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Dr. Amber Arshad, and today my topic of presentation is Introduction to Demography and Demographic Cycle. In this presentation, I shall be giving a brief introduction to demography, the elements of demography, sources of data that is used, and demographic cycle and its 5 stages with recent updates and an MCQ session at the end. At the end of the presentation, the participants will be able to describe the different stages of demographic cycle and what challenges are faced by Pakistan and solutions to it. So, demography is the study of human population, and it considers the population size, the density, the distribution, and the area of the study considers birth rates, death rates, and age distributions. So, demography is the study of human population and mainly focuses on the composition, depending on the age and gender of the specific population of the area, the population size that is changing with passage of time, but it's not an absolute size that is considered. The distribution of the people, therefore, so it's the study of people and with graphical representation. So demographic indicators are of two types: population statistics and vital statistics. So population statistics include the indicators that have that measures the population's size, gender ratio, density, and dependency ratio, while the vital statistics include the indicators such as birth rates, death rates, natural growth rates, life expectancy at birth, mortality, and fertility rates. The elements of demography in terms of size, composition, and distribution are: in terms of size, it can be either increase in the population or decrease in the population. In terms of composition, as I've already told, is regarding gender and age group distribution, which includes the children, the adults, the old age population, and from which we can calculate the dependency ratios and working population proportions. And distribution regarding the geographical area or the territory of the specific country or a geographic distribution. So composition of population according to age pertains to the comparative percentages of individuals that are at different age levels and are influencing the economic and social structure of the society, mainly focusing the working population and the dependent population that is more than 65 years of age. And gender composition pertains to the gender differences which determined by the sex ratio and is affected by births, deaths, and migration incidences. And migration is kept a part of this demographic transition, and it plays an important role in determining the stage of the demographic transition. It is similarly, the birth rates is the yearly count of the live births per thousand populations and gives data on the society reproductive patterns, where the total fertility rate is the average count of children conceived and can project society's future population growth determined by the population momentum. So the sources of demographic data that can be used are population census, national samples, surveys, and registrations. So primary data is mainly collected by the individuals using one of the following methods, like observations, interviews, questionnaires, and diaries and census, national surveys, registrations, demographic studies, and records. So the data that is and there is also a form of secondary data, that is collection directly or indirectly from the population, like data collected direct from individuals by face-to-face surveys, or data collected during census, data related to health from an individual, data related to illness from an individual. So how census data is useful, that it's in population count where the demographic, economic, and social, all three are compiled related to the given individual and are collected according to the and tabulated and is presented in the tabulated form that is easy to interpret. Vital statistics, events that deals with the individual lives Vital statistics are the events that deal with individual lives and include the birth rates and the death rates and the continue and which are continuously varying. The data sample surveys are conducted private and public institutions. So demographic process deals with five main things, that is fertility, mortality, marriage, migration, and social mobility. It's actually mobility, not morbidity. So morbidity is not the part of this demographic process. So what factors causes the rapid population birth rates? It is estimated that around the world more than 4 babies are born every second. And if the fertility is not matched by the mortality, then the overpopulation is bound to happen. And if the death rate, and in terms of death rate, if there is a decline in mortality and stable birth, even then the population will continue to rise. That is the population momentum. And another important cause of rapid population growth is migration. That people change in likewise affected by migration, which is the movement of people from one place to another. And it has been observed that the main reason why people migrate is an economic reason. The countries where the economy is better and that is more developed, people tend to move over there. So those countries might face the challenge for the migrations. So what are the consequences for this rapid growth population? Economic consequences, there can be economic instability and fiscal deficits in the community. The social effect is that the people's social life can be affected, their overall quality of life can be affected due to the low availability of resources. Political effects, consequences for education that can cause lower literacy rates, health, welfare, child development, environmental deterioration, and security problems. Now coming to the demographic cycle. So the demographic cycle consists of 5 stages, and it's characterized by different rates of increasing or decreasing death rates and birth rates with in terms of time. And this whole phenomena is where the country moves from one stage, step by step, from one stage to another, is called the demographic transition, and is a phenomena that considers the minimal economic, technological, and social factors that influence the size and growth of the population to other societies with advancement in these areas. Meaning that the economy, the technology, and the social factors all influence the size of the populations. Sorry. And overall depends on how the country or the geographic area or the specific area develops. So this was first fall started in 1929, Warren Thompson, and this was according to the demographic transition model, which depicts the history of a country and refers to the transition from high birth rates, high death rate, to the low birth rates and the low death rates as the country develops. And this whole process starts from pre-industrial stage and move to the highest industrialized economic system that is more stable. And some of the countries have been able to achieve this stage. So the 5 stages of demographic transition model starts first with, this is the graphical representation of how the stages progresses, starting from high birth rates and death rates, and with the increasing facilities and increased healthcare services in the country and other factors related to the economy. The stages changes and the country progresses from stage 1 to stage 5. Now I shall explain all the stages in detail. Now, stage 1, also known as the pre-industrial stage, high stationary stage, or highly fluctuating stage. In this stage, both the birth rates and death rates are extremely high, and population fluctuates mainly due to the incidence of like famine, like disease and war. And this was quite early before industrialization phase, and most of the countries face these challenges like disease, war, and high infant mortality and very low life expectancy was the hallmark feature for this stage. Rural societies dependent on and this stage was present when most of the societies were depending on the agriculture and the organic products, and the total population is low and balanced due to high birth rates and high death rates, meaning that initially the population was low but balanced because both the rates were high. So reasons for the birth rates to be high is the lack of family planning, high infant mortality rate, need for workers in agriculture, religious beliefs, and children as economic assets. And the death rates were high because of high level of disease, famine, lack of clean water and sanitation, war, lack of healthcare, lack of education, and food predators were common. Currently, currently no official country is in the world is currently in stage one, but small indigenous groups like Amazon, Sub-Saharan Africa are in stage one, but not all are pre-contact. And indigenous peoples have high birth rate and death rate, but small groups, but not a whole country. So in stage two, the industrial revolution, that is early expanding, meaning that the death rate falls sharply due to the improvements in the healthcare. And it all started in the 19th century, way before 19th century, but mostly in that era. And the birth rates remain high. So the total population grows very quickly. This phase, countries move because of the improvement in farming and technology and increased food supply and better nutrition, water, sewage, and personal hygiene in the public system was one of the reasons. An increase in female literacy combined with public health education programs was one of the important factors that led many countries to move from stage one to stage two. So the reason in this stage why the death rates were falling rapidly was an improved healthcare system. For example, in the extensive use of smallpox vaccine and vaccines against other and improved medications were developed. With improved hygiene, improved sanitation, improved food productions, and better initiatives were taken for decreasing the infant mortalities. So currently, the sub-Saharan African region, Guatemala, Nauru, Palestine, Yemen, and Afghanistan are in stage 2. Now coming to stage 3, this is the post-industrial revolution, that is the late expanding. And here the population still increases, but the increases has slowed down. So the birth rate falls due to the availability of contraception, that family planning played an important role in this stage. And reduction of child labor, the fewer children being needed to work in farms due to the mechanization of farming. So technology also played an important role for countries moving from second to third stage. Death rate stayed low because of the improved health conditions and an increase in the status of education women, along with the other technology improvement and contraceptive methods. The whole economy rised and the country's economic status improved, but still there was a rapid rise due to the population momentum, and the gap between birth rates and death rates started to narrow down. So the reasons was the family planning available, low infant mortality rate, increased mechanization, increased standard of living, and changing status of women in terms of health and education. So the countries currently here in stage 3 are Pakistan, Costa Rica, other countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Lebanon, South Africa, India, etc. So Pakistan since 1998 has been in third stage of demographic transition, where birth rates have fallen as a result of all those measures of contraception awareness, wages increase, urbanization, but not made headwind, further reducing fertility rates to reach the fourth stage where the birth rates are equal to the death rates. So now stage 4, it's the stabilization stage, low, stationary, or very slow increase. Similar reasons, but with more extensive use and more strict measures are taken to reduce the birth rates. So the total, for the birth and the death rates are low, and the population is still high, but it's balanced by the low birth rates and the low death rates. So the countries currently in stage 4 are United States, Canada, Argentine, UK, Europe, Singapore, Iran, China, Thailand, Mauritius, etc. So now is the stage 5, that is a declining population, meaning that the low birth rates along with an aging population leads to the declining population. The meaning the low that the birth rate is lower than the death rate that is already low, and that is increasing the aging population. And mainly the diseases that are affecting in the lifestyle of the people in these are mainly the chronic diseases that started from stage 5, and the acute diseases, the incidence of acute diseases reduced from stage 1 to stage 3, but from stage 4 and 5 the chronic diseases were the main reason why the people were getting sick, because of the increased aging population, and the birth rates may drop well drop well below replacement level. And the population is decline in the declining phase. So currently Japan, Portugal, Ukraine, Germany and other countries are in stage 5. So this was the article that was published with the title of Population Growth and Demographic Dividend. So in Pakistan has faced many challenges, and the population has projected, and it is estimated that it might reach 340 million by 250 and 400 million by the end of the century. So the main challenge we are facing is the high fertility rates. So one of the solution is to reduce the fertility rates, like without reducing fertility, the likelihood of working age population to grow faster than the country dependent population is slim for Pakistan, thereby sustaining constricted per capita productivity capacity of the economy is difficult. So reducing the fertility rate is the first aim to achieve this transition from stage 3 to stage 4 for Pakistan. Second is the family planning, and for this purpose government has taken several proactive steps to control the population. Several councils have been created. Efforts have been made towards the provisional universal access of contraceptives. Legislative bills have been passed related to premarital counseling and young age marriages. Double funds have been provided to the welfares, and in Punjab, innovative fund has been generated, and Benazir income support as well. And there are also very social cultural aspect that needs to be addressed if we need Pakistan to progress from stage 3 to stage 4 of demographic transition. The social impediments against population control, like religious cultural resistance, like they need to be addressed. National dialogue with every stakeholder on board must be done. Councils interest and Council of Islamic Ideology must work together, and right mindset of Pakistan can diffuse a population bomb and prove Malthus wrong. So Pakistan must need to focus on these aspects. So some of the recent updates regarding the demographic cycle is that the population projections of Pakistan were what is there in 2028. This has been recently published, and the projections were made on the data that was given by the PDHS survey and Pakistan census reports. And the empirical results exhibited that due to continuous drop in the total fertility rate, proportion of young and old people would likely to reduce, whereas working age population appeared to be increased. The percentage of reproductive women is projected to be increased, whereas the gender ratio, the crude birth rate, the death rates are predicted to be decreased over time. And if carefully drawn, population policy must be focused on awareness about how family planning programs to control an immense population growth in Pakistan. So there are chances that we can achieve stage 4 if we strictly control our fertility rates. This was another article that was showing demographic transition and effect on economy in terms of saving behavior. Was done in 45 countries, and this paper attempts to probe the effect of the working age population ratio and the effect of the rise of the working age population and the level of economic growth have a positive impact, whereas inflation and interest rates have had a negative effect on the overall domestic saving and economy. So the golden population structure, which means that the it must be implemented, and which includes creation of appropriate jobs, provision of more opportunities from employment, and improvement of productivity for working age population. And this last one is the demographic transition and growth nexus in Pakistan, implication for development policy. So this study uses the gross domestic product as a dependent variable and gross domestic saving rate, health expenditure, life expectancy, and total literacy rate as independent variables. Findings were there was positive connections between gross domestic products and the health expenditures, life expectancy, literacy, meaning if the gross domestic product is increased, indirectly all these variables would be increased with proper interventions. So study offers useful policy implications to policymakers in Pakistan and countries with similar socio-economic features. So now it's time for the MCQs. MCQ number 1 is the evolution over time of population profile of a country, region, or other defined geographic area is based on this demographic transition. This demographic transition shows the social trends that involves either the reduction in the population size caused by the higher rates of immigration than immigration, a change in the principal cause of death and disease since industrialization, increase in birth and death rates resulting in relatively young population, a decline in the birth rates, greater life expectancy, and an aging population. Any guesses?
Alpha.
Because mainly it's the change in the principal causes of deaths and disease since industrialization, which is the most appropriate answer regarding this statement in according to the given options. Since 1998, Pakistan has been in the third stage of demographic transition. To see the progress of the country, the demographic transition model is used, which is actually the graph that plots change in birth, death rates, and migration over time and shows how population grows, or it's a graph that plots the infant mortality and people per doctor over time, or it's a graph that plots changes in birth and death rates over time and shows how the population grows, and the graph that plots child mortality, death rate over time and shows how the population grows in response.
A.
E.
This was a catch. Actually, whenever we are giving a graphical representation of this whole demographic transition process, only two variables are shown, births and deaths. Migration is an important part, but in graphical representation, mainly the births and the death rates. So C is the answer. In a country XYZ, the death rate in the last 5 years increased from 6 to 7 deaths per thousand to 15 deaths per thousand population. And the birth rates are equally high. Identify the stage on the demographic transition model for this region. Either it's stage 4, stage 3, stage 2, stage 1, or stage 5. Where death rates are very high and birth rates are equally high, very high. And the population, it's
D.
yes, it's D, it's stage 1. When both the death rates and the birth rates are high. In this is the on the right side is the crude birth death rates for the United Kingdoms, and the pattern shows a declining death rate pattern. So identify the stage on the demographic model where the birth rate starts to fall and the death rates remain low. The birth rate starts to fall. Which is that stage where the birth rates start to fall?
B. Stage 3.
Yes, it's stage 3 where the birth rate starts to fall and the death rates remain low. The population and vital statistic of country XYZ was studied by the team of researchers. They found that the natural increase, meaning that the immigration minus emigration and the death rates and minus the birth rates ratio is highest. Identify the stage on the demographic transition model. In which stage the natural increase is the highest? This is stage 2, where the natural increase is the highest. The population is also getting high death. The birth rates are high. The death rates are declining, but the immigrations and the people moving to the country is also very high. So the population is continuously changing. It's stage 2. Demographic transition is a framework that explores the historical sequence of change in population. In stage 3 of health transition, the main cause of illness would be either it's acute infections, respiratory diseases, chronic degenerative diseases, too diverse to put in cancers and malignancies. Health transition from stage 3 to the next stages. What was the main transition of the diseases from which phase to which phase? Either it was acute infectious diseases that were the main reason, the respiratory diseases, or the trend towards the chronic diseases, or only the cancers, malignancies, or too diverse to put in the category?
C.
Yes, it's C. That the trend moved from acute diseases with improved health conditions towards the chronic diseases. During a seminar, a question was raised by panelists regarding the demographic transition indicators. Audience were divided in small discussion groups. At the end of allocated time, all the groups agreed on a single important indicator of population change for demographic transition, which is migration, human development report, net attendance ratio, life expectancy, infant mortality rate.
E.
um, Whenever we are talking about the whole demographic transition and the indicators, migration is the most important indicator that need to be addressed. Identify the stage on the demographic transition model where most lower income countries can be found. Lower income countries like Afghanistan and some countries like from Africa and other. Lower.
State or B.
Yes, it's stage 2. Its answer is C. Now, the 8 is a country like Japan and Germany has entered stage of demographic transition where the birth rate is falling below the death rates and the population aging and the gradually dominated by the older population. Identify the stage.
Stage 5.
Yes,
E.
it's stage 5. The population growth during demographic transition depends all on the following excepts: the time taken to complete, the crude rate of natural increase during the stage of peak growth, the absolute population size, the pre-transition fertility rates, the migration to the region, which is not considered important while considering this whole demographic transition process. I mentioned it when I was explaining the elements of the demographic transition. This is
B.
This is C. The absolute population size is not considered. So C is the answer. And last is while studying in various indicators XYZ, which of the following is not including in the demographic process? The indicators: mortality, fertility, morbidity, social mobility, migration.
Morbidity. C.
Yes, morbidity is not considered as an indicator. Thank you so much. This is the key, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice presentation.